Today's goal is to do some calculations on how to save for retirement. So many investment organizations suggest you save at least $1 million in order to retire comfortably. How do you do that? By setting aside money to invest throughout your career and letting those investments earn interest while you're working. Many financial institutions suggest that beginners start by using index funds. So an index fund will feel like I'm buying a share or a couple of shares. And inside of those shares, they're made up largely of companies that make up a large part of the market, companies like Apple and Facebook. And they are made up of many, many tiny pieces of companies that make up a smaller share of the market. This is considered a good beginning investment because it's a lot safer than putting all your money into an individual stock. For example, if you invest in Disney and Disney goes down next month, you lost a ton of money. It's also a lot more lucrative than putting all your money in really, really safe options like bonds and bank accounts. So let's start with some calculations. A recent CNN Money article projects that the average starting salary for college graduates of the class of 2018 is about $50,000. Let's assume you pay 25% of your paycheck in taxes, a number that will vary dramatically depending on your individual circumstances. But if you do so, that means that your take-home pay is about $37,500, which means that every month you're getting a paycheck, or maybe it's split between a couple paycheck, of $3,125. And a lot of financial investors will tell you should be setting aside 12 to 15% of your salary every month for retirement. So let's say you start on the low end, low of course being a really good starting investment of 12% of your monthly salary. And so this is what you contribute every month to your retirement savings. So you put it aside and you don't touch it. Okay, so let's say you put this money into an index fund, which is meant to mimic the market, which historically earns about 7% annual interest. So that means that this $375 is going to grow exponentially, earning 7% every year or every 12 months for the entirety of your career. So that first month that you're working, you're setting money aside. You're going to work for, let's say, 40 years. You graduate at 22. Let's say you retire at age 62. So that first investment that you make has another 39 years and 11 months to sit there and earn interest. So that's a total of 479 months. That means this one investment of $375 will be worth $5,583.85 by the time you retire. So that $400 grew to over $5,000. That's pretty cool. That's why Einstein calls investing or compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. So let's say you work a second month at your new job. You set aside $375. We hope to earn 7% interest every year, every 12 months. This time you have 39 years and 10 months left to save, so 478 months left to save. So that one investment will be worth $5,552.46 by the time you retire. You invest the next month, right? You put $375 away. This time it's going to earn interest for 477 months. It will be worth $5,521.24. So you keep investing, you keep investing, you keep investing. In the final months of your work, you're going to say, in the month before you retire, you have 1 month left to earn interest. And so that investment will be worth $377.12 the next month. It'll be worth barely more than $375 because you're only investing it for 1 more month. The last month that you work, your time's up. You don't have any more time for that investment to earn interest, and so it will just be worth $375 when you retire. So notice that these individual numbers are decreasing dramatically based on how much time you're setting the money aside for. So the big question then is, how much money do you have in total after 40 years of diligent savings? Well, let's add them up. At the least, you're out of time to retire, but at the most, you have 479 months to save for retirement. And every single one of those investments looks like $375 that earns 7% annual interest. So you throw this in your calculator, and you can find that by the time you retire, you'll have $926,828.25 for your retirement. So you worked really hard for 40 years, you put money aside every single month, but this is still short of the $1 million that most people say you'll need. Again, how much money you'll need to retire depends on a lot of things, but the beauty of using series for calculations is they take a little bit of time to set up, but then they're very easy to adjust. So originally we said financial advisors are going to suggest you save 12 to 15% of your monthly paycheck. So let's just change one variable. Let's say, okay, your monthly take-home pay is $3,125. What if instead you saved 15% of that monthly take-home instead of 12%? That would mean that every month you're setting aside $468.75. So let's say everything else is the same. You're going to work for 40 years. You're going to set that money aside in an index fund that we hope will earn about 7% annual interest. The only difference we're changing is how much money you're setting aside. And then you calculate by the time you retire, this time you would save over $1 million, which is pretty cool. So the difference between setting aside $375, 12% of your paycheck, and 15% of your paycheck can have a huge payout difference in terms of what you'll ultimately have saved for retirement. Now, again, this is based on a bunch of assumptions just for ease of calculation, right? Probably you're not going to pay the same amount of taxes your entire career. Hopefully you'll get promotions, and so you'll make more money as time goes on. But the other thing that's probably realistic is that at the beginning of your career, it might be hard to save money for retirement. So let's do one more example just to show you, again, how flexible series are in terms of doing some calculations. Let's say it takes you a little bit longer to graduate. This time you don't graduate college until you're age 25. And then let's say since it took you a little while, you're going to work a little longer. You're going to work 42 years and retire at the age of 67. And let's say in the first 20 years of working, you're paying back student loans. You raise a family. You have a couple of kids. So you can only save 6% of your paycheck. And let's say for the last 22 years of your career, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to really catch up. And so let's say you save 20% of your paycheck. You make a huge contribution every single month. Let's say that the index funds make you nervous. So you put some of your money into bonds, which are safer. And you say, okay, in case the stock market crashes, I want to have money in a safer place. So you're only going to make 5% annual interest on your investment. And let's just change a couple of variables. Let's say you work as a data scientist. And so that would mean that maybe every time you go to Rite Aid or every time you go to Food Town and they ask, like, do you have your loyalty card? And you think, yeah, I want to get the coupons. Those companies are gathering information about your spending habits. And so maybe you work for those companies and help them determine, like, hey, you should give this customer a coupon to Ben & Jerry's because I can see they're frequent ice cream eaters. You can probably entice them to buy more ice cream, things like that. So maybe you love statistics, you love computer programming, and you want to get this great job where you earn $95,000 a year. Again, probably less at the beginning and more at the end of your career, but we'll just keep it simple. And let's still assume that you pay 25% of your salary in taxes. Again, that'll change throughout your career, but we'll just keep things a little bit simple here. So in the first 20 years of your job, you earn $95,000. You get to keep 75% of that. That means your take-home pay is going to be $71,250. Still a very great take-home pay, which means that every month your paychecks look like $5,937.50. And you're only contributing 6% at the beginning because you've got a lot of other financial obligations. I think that's a pretty realistic assumption. And so every month at the beginning of your career, you're setting aside $356.25. Okay, so how long are you going to set it aside? Well, that first month that you make an investment and that you're working, you have 41 years and 11 months to invest, right? You're going to work for a total of 42 years. So that means that first investment that you make is going to have 503 months to earn interest. And then the second month that you're working, you have 41 years and 10 months left to save and to compound interest. You earn 502 months worth of interest, then you earn 501 months of interest, and so on. This is for the first 20 years. So at that last moment, you're still going to have 20 full years and no months left to save. And so that would be 264 months left to earn interest. And so the reason we have to do those calculations is we have to say, well, at the least, you're saving for another 264 months. At the most, you're saving for 503 more months. And we know you're going to set aside $356.25. This time, you're expecting to earn 5% annual interest, which means that in those first 20 years, you're going to earn, by the time you retire, $422,898.65. And let's take a look at those last 22 years. What's changing? Well, how much you're setting aside. This time, instead of setting aside 6%, we said, let's set aside 20% of our monthly paycheck. And so this time, you're going to set aside a much bigger amount every month, $1,187.50. What else is changing? Well, how much time you have left. So if you start working and you have 22 years left of work, that's 21 years and 11 months left for those savings to accrue. And so that would be 263 months. And then you have 21 years and 10 months left, which is 262 months. And then you have 21 years and 9 months, and so on, until the very last month that you're working. Time's up. You have no months left to invest because you're just working that month. You set aside that month, and then you retire immediately. So in the last 22 years of your job, you're saving at the least for no months, at the most for 263 months. You're setting aside $1,187.50. Again, hoping to earn 5% annual interest. And so that means from that last sort of half of your career, you're earning $561,162.90. And so in total, let's add up. How much do we have saved from the first half-ish of our career? How much do we have saved from the second half-ish of our career? That would be a total of $984,061.54. So there are tons of things you can take away from this. One thing I just want to point out is that earlier in your career, you were saving a lot less money per month than later in your career, but the result was almost the same because you had so much more time to earn interest. And so it's hard to do earlier in your career, but it's important to save early as much as possible. There are also tons of variables that affect how much you're going to save, including how much you're setting aside, but also what kinds of investments you're making. How long are you working? Are you working for 40 years, for 45 years? Things like that will all make a really big difference. And so hopefully now you have enough of an understanding of these series calculations that you'll be able to play with the variables according to your own retirement goals and set some goals for yourself.